Hello and welcome again to Ignite. My name is Misha Sokolnikov, and on behalf of the Defender for IoT and Sentinel teams, I thank you for tuning in today. In this session, we're going to talk about operational technologies, industrial controller systems, and what it takes to secure them. Without further ado, let's dive right in. We have an exciting agenda for you today. First, we're going to talk about the threat landscape and some interesting patterns and trends that we're seeing specifically in the OT space. We continue to notice recurring patterns in where organizations struggle with OT security, and we'd like to talk about that. Of course, the bulk of the presentation will be about the best practices in OT security and what it takes to build what we call a true OT-Enabled SOC. Finally, we have prepared a very short demo for you, and we'll leave you with some resources that you can use after the presentation. Spoiler alert, they're absolutely free, and you can start using them today. All right, let's begin. I would like to start off with the recognition that within the security industry, the terms like OT, ICS, and cyber-physical systems are often used interchangeably. We'll stick with the term OT for the rest of the presentation, and I'm going to borrow the definition from Gartner so you know what we're talking about. Essentially, by OT security, we mean protecting people, assets, and information involved in the monitoring and or control of physical devices, processes, and events. It's definitely a mouthful, but if anything, this long definition underscores the sheer complexity that OT security involves. And when it comes to OT, it can be an oil refinery, a manufacturing plant, a transportation facility, a mining site, or even a building management system. These are just a few examples. Since we mentioned complexity, let's talk a little bit more about that. The first thing we usually talk about when it comes to OT and IoT is the sheer volume of devices that organizations have to deal with. Today, the number is somewhere in the ballpark of 12 billion, but by 2025, just in a few years, it's going to be 25 billion devices. That growth speaks to the fact that OT and IoT devices are becoming more and more important to the world economy. Not surprisingly, for 68% of organizations, OT and IoT are absolutely vital to the business, and they recognize that. The problem is this crazy growth will essentially double the attack surface that organizations need to protect. And this is where something truly tragic happens. Instead of taking advantage of all these technologies, instead of modernizing their machinery and equipment, many organizations are actually slowing down or stopping the adoption of IoT and OT projects. In essence, organizations are simply stalling their growth. Why does that happen? There are several reasons. The most fundamental one is the fact that organizations are having a hard time understanding what devices they have in the first place. Very few organizations keep that inventory, and even when they do, the process is often manual. So when new devices get added pretty much every day without any permissions or advance notice, organizations struggle. The second problem is related to the first one. Knowing which devices you have is hard in itself, but knowing which ones need to be patched or properly configured is even harder. Vulnerability assessment across a massive fleet of devices is not an easy task. The third reason I want to talk about here is the fact that many organizations struggle to detect a potential compromise on a device. It's easy to think of an OT device as the final goal of an attacker, but the reality is more complicated. Sometimes these devices are used as the entry point, and sometimes they're used by attackers to move laterally. And when no damage is done to the device, how easy is it to discover a potential security incident? For many organizations, the answer is not easy at all. Even if we leave these statistics aside, we've all seen what OT threats look like when they make headlines. This is just a snapshot of some of the attacks that many of you have seen in the news. By no means is the list exhaustive, unfortunately. We know through our internal research that around 30% of organizations have seen attackers targeting OT environments in their networks in the last 12 months. What are some recurring themes here? Unauthorized devices being taken advantage of, compromised passwords leading to attacks, device vulnerabilities being left unchecked. You can tell that all these issues are not extreme examples in the security world. They happen all the time. With the operational technologies, however, the damage can be very real, and it often goes beyond stolen intellectual property or brick devices. Attacks on fuel pipelines, water supply, or energy facilities have a real, tangible consequence. They can easily be orders of magnitude more disruptive than any other type of attacks. And they can spill into the physical world, causing real harm to real people. Recently, we have seen how nation states target operational technologies in their warfare, and their goals are very straightforward. They want to cause real damage. Given all these risks, we're often asked, shouldn't these operational technologies be the first ones to secure and defend? The answer is it's complicated. Let's see why OT security can be challenging to deliver. If I were to summarize the fundamental reason that makes OT security challenging, it would boil down to a simple truth. IT and OT security are simply not the same. They're fundamentally different things. It doesn't mean that they have to stay that way, but approaching OT security with the same philosophy and tooling used in IT will certainly not yield the needed results. What do I mean by that? Well, in the IT world, the most crucial issue is data confidentiality and matters like privacy. IT is a mature space, and for the most part, protocols and devices are standardized and fairly uniform. Everything is interconnected, making visibility a lesser issue, and also providing plenty of signal and telemetry into usage and behavior. Compare all these things to the world of OT. The first thing that stands out is that safety and availability will trump every other priority. The space is also more diverse and still developing with lots of specialized protocols, devices, and operating systems. They don't even have to be new. Legacy devices and operating systems are a big challenge in the space. OT systems also tend to be isolated from the IT network, and that poses lots of issues with visibility, vulnerability assessment, and that leaves security teams with little data to support threat detection, hunting, and incident response. For many organizations, it is also true that OT and IT security teams don't even work together. All of these challenges are not extreme examples. They are true for the majority of organizations that use OT heavily today. And while it's not ideal, we believe there's a better way to think about OT security. Let's talk about that. We've been on this journey defending OT customers for several years now. Every customer is obviously unique, and their challenges will always vary. But the solutions to these challenges typically boil down to the notion of integrating OT into the broader security operation or a security operations center, commonly referred to as SOC. The notion may sound simple, but it doesn't mean it is easy. In fact, we believe that it only happens when organizations can simultaneously address issues at three levels: expertise, processes, and technology. There's always a tendency to prioritize one or two areas in particular, but the reality, all of these areas are absolutely critical. Let's take expertise, for example. We just spoke about the uniqueness of the OT space, and you absolutely have to have the people and knowledge to navigate the complexity of operational technologies. Even attacker techniques may require the subject matter knowledge that a typical IT security practitioner may not have. With processes, these expertise gaps become immediately apparent, especially when OT and IT teams don't communicate or use disparate tooling and rely heavily on manual processes. Improving these workflows and automating repetitive tasks is an absolute must. Finally, with technologies, achieving full visibility between IT and OT, while challenging, is absolutely critical. With that visibility, you can detect advanced attacks that products wouldn't catch in isolation. Ideally, you also want your tools to deploy easily and work with minimal pivots. Make no mistake, this isn't an easy task, but we believe that it needs to be done. We also believe that it can be done, and I'd like to show you how we think about solving the problem at Microsoft. Several years ago, we set out on a mission to solve two fundamental challenges. First, we wanted to converge IT and OT security operations. We believe that the separation of the two is one of the bigger obstacles in OT security. And this month, we're reaching a big milestone in the journey. We're introducing our dedicated Defender for IoT solution for Sentinel. It's a native solution that empowers every security team to secure both OT and IT environments within the same solution with built-in tools and deployment that takes only several clicks. Converging IT and OT security is a tricky task if you only focus on one of the two aspects. But we're fortunate to be in a position where we have a pretty broad set of capabilities that span both IT and OT security. This isn't something that is very common in the industry. As a byproduct of the first objective, we also wanted to help security teams drastically reduce their mean time to respond. This isn't the only metric that matters, of course, but we've learned over the years that in security, there are times when every second matters. And we want to be there with our customers in these moments. And we want to give them the solution that will save them every second possible. How do we do that? Let's take a look on the next slide. Again, I'll be using the same components we discussed earlier: expertise, processes, and technology. To repeat, all of these are equally important to us. In expertise, we're giving Sentinel customers the ability to know all the things that truly matter in OT: crown jewel assets, vulnerabilities, risk assessment, etc. For example, we want every tier analyst to be able to identify any abnormal behavior and apply dedicated IoT, OT threat intelligence to everything they see in their environment. Essentially, we're turning any SOC analyst into a skilled OT analyst backed by the knowledge from leading practitioners. This is a massive gap in security today, and we're helping teams bridge it much, much faster. In processes, we're giving security teams across OT and IT the same toolkit that they can use across all teams and all use cases. With that toolkit, they also get out-of-the-box workbooks, analytics rules, and playbooks to codify their processes and reduce manual work. Finally, in technology, we're for the first time bringing that much-needed single pane of glass that will give analysts a holistic experience across all data sources. I can't overemphasize how powerful this is for OT. As we discussed earlier, OT devices can sometimes be only one stopping point in the bigger chain of an attack. With that breadth of signals, several weak signals across the network can turn into one strong one. For IT and OT, this merger is game-changing. And for those of you who are not familiar with Sentinel, let me tell you why we're so excited about this joint solution. Sentinel is a purpose-built tool designed to be the brain of your security operations center. It captures data across your entire security program and gives you all the tools you need to manage the security of your organization, from detection to investigation to remediation, all the way to response. It's a cloud-native solution, and that means that you can take advantage of the scale of the cloud with things like speed, ease of maintenance, and cost efficiency. It also ingests and correlates signals across all your security tools. Remember how we spoke about OT devices being a part of a broader chain of events in an attack. With Sentinel, you can separate true threats from the noise, detect advanced threats hiding behind that noise, and respond before any serious damage is caused. That is the advantage of Sentinel. Now, let's see how Defender for IoT makes Sentinel even more powerful. The key thing to remember about Defender for IoT is that you get one solution that secures you across all your IoT and OT use cases. Whether it's OT and ICS, which we talk about today, or general purpose IoT devices like printers and smart cameras, or routers and switchers. Defender for IoT covers it all. And more importantly, it integrates with your entire SIM or XDR program with Sentinel and Defender. That way, you make sure that IoT and OT devices are a pillar of your entire security program. Now that we've spoken about this new solution, let's see how it works in action. We are now in Sentinel, and what you see is the main screen, where you have the snapshot of your entire security program. The first thing I'd like to show is how easy it is to enable our OT capabilities. Let's click on Data Connectors and search for Defender for IoT. We're going to select the Defender for IoT connector, and you can see how within a single click, you can connect the solution and start getting OT alerts in Sentinel. It's that simple. Next, let's talk about processes. We're going to go into the Content Hub and search for Defender for IoT one more time. What we find here is the solution package, and this package includes the out-of-the-box content that we spoke about earlier. It's the analytics rules, it's the playbooks, and workbooks to codify and automate your processes. Again, in just one click, we have all that content up and running. Now let's check out the workbook that we have just enabled. It's now available in your workbooks, and immediately you can see that your entire OT operation is visualized. You can see all the devices, including those that are active, and if you're an analyst, you probably also want to see the most critical incidents and CVEs. This is just the high-level view, and it is fully customizable. You can easily move on to a more detailed view of your device inventory and review all your OT-related incidents and alerts. Here you can see all your alerts and sort them by severity, which is critical if you want to prioritize your work. You can also see trending, location, and efficiency data, and many other indicators. We also have the MITRE ATT&CK framework for those organizations that use it. And finally, we have a detailed view of OT vulnerabilities. This is where we give guidance on how to prioritize and address vulnerabilities in OT. Once again, a super critical capability for monitoring and improving your security posture. Next, let's go to the incident page. These are all the incidents I have assigned right now. And if I click on one of them and view the full details, immediately I can see the detailed description, including all the entities involved. Let's go ahead and investigate this one. This is the investigation graph where you can immediately see all the affected devices, all in one snapshot. Not only that, you can also see all the related alerts and all the entities that are tied to them. That gives you a much more complete view of the incident. Lastly, if you want to access the full capabilities of Defender for IoT, these are also available to you within a click. This is where you can get more information like device data and PCAPs and other in-depth information that may guide you in your investigation. This concludes my quick demo. And as you can tell, we really want OT security to be easy to integrate within your SOC. We've made OT expertise, processes, and technologies available to you within just a few clicks. This is what we call a true OT-enabled SOC. Great. Now that we've seen the demo, I want to spend a little bit of time and tell you about our recognition in the industry. We have been on this journey for many years now, defending customers and also working with the independent analyst firms. Gartner recognizes us as a leader for industrial IoT platforms. Another independent organization, which many of you know, MITRE, did a dedicated test for ICS, and we were the leader for real-world detection. Sentinel has been named a leader by Forrester in its wave for security analytics platforms. Last but not least, we're lucky to be trusted by truly great companies and customers, some of the largest organizations in the energy, oil and gas, manufacturing, and many other industries. With that, if you want to learn more about Defender for IoT and Sentinel, we have some great resources for you. Remember that both Sentinel and Defender for IoT are available for a free trial. Be sure to take advantage of that. If you're a Sentinel customer, check out our solution in the marketplace and read the integration tutorial that we prepared for you. Lastly, we have a great tech community for Defender for IoT, and we invite you to join us to stay up to date on all the exciting work that we're doing. And with that, on behalf of the Defender for IoT and Sentinel teams, I would like to thank you again for your time. Stay fearless.